In this setup analysis, we're going to take a look at the Tecnifibre Razor Code 1.20 string. I've got it again in the Dunlop FX700, and we'll just go through a few of these stats that I think are important to highlight. So we've got a dwell time here of 33.6 milliseconds, which is one of the lowest that we've used here at Kupenya Tennis. Moving along, we've got a deflection of 31.1 millimeters, again very low, a stiffness rating of 216.6 pounds, and we've got a tension maintenance at 28.3% and an energy return of 88.7%. So all of these stats combined together, I would assume it's a very powerful string, maybe with a lot of spin as well. We'll see what happens. I'm not too sure. In comparison to what we've been using in the previous analysis videos, I expect a lot more in terms of shot speed, and I'm also expecting a little bit more in terms of height and trajectory control, seeing as the stiffness rating is significantly higher, and also on top of that we've got the deflection, which is pretty low as well. But we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to testing this. Let's get out on court. In comparison to some of the setups we've been recently testing, the first serve percentage went up by, I would say, at least 10%. I actually could use a flat serve this time rather than having to roll in a kick serve, as my percentage was so low in the previous few setup tests. So that was a nice feeling again, to be able to use a first serve properly. And to get a few free points as well. I didn't really have to sacrifice any shot speed, or serve speed rather. And I'm not entirely sure why the percentage went up. It could be because we've got more control in terms of height and width, because I wouldn't think we'd have more length control, seeing as the string is a bit more powerful than the previous setups. Although more spin that this string provides could be getting the ball to dip at the last few seconds, so that's something to consider. But either way, however it has improved the percentage, the important thing is that it has upped my first serve percentage and made that an option again, so definitely worth mentioning. The second serve had some noticeable kick off of the surface and some movement through the air as well. At first, I did hit a few double faults, as the launch angle off of the serve was a bit different to what I've been used to, what I've been playing with the previous month or two. But I think once it's dialed in a little bit, we could be able to utilize that extra spin off the string, and if we get it correct, we could even use it as a weapon at some points, maybe even mix it up with as a first serve, especially on that ad side, and try and get our opponent outside of the court. But the second serve was, I would say it was an improvement again over the past few setups that we've used, and maybe with a little bit more practice, as I get the aiming dialed in, we could use that more and more effectively against our opponents. I'm going to speak about the volleys next, and it's not really a strength for this setup. I thought, despite stringing it a lot lower than I have previously, this was around 52 pounds, like in search of a little bit more feel, and with feel usually comes a little bit more length control. Not the case with this string. Again, it's just a little bit too powerful to be effective up close to the net, and drop volleys or finesse shots in general just don't have that much access to it, unfortunately. And the extra spin that you get off of the string doesn't really make up for that lack of length control. I just couldn't attack the ball the way I wanted. I couldn't get that bite off of the surface to really make my opponent uncomfortable and make him under pressure enough in order for net play to be a positive expected value play, if that makes sense. and it's a shame, really. I did try to get into the net a few times, but because I was having to play a type of volley that would put me under pressure, it's in the back of my head. And so even in situations where I'm ahead in the rally and I can see him setting up for a slice, which I, in theory, should be able to come in and sometimes put away for a winner, or put the volley into a position where I am way ahead in the rally, because it's in my head that this setup doesn't really have access to the type of volleys that I need, I would often stay back, and it would give my opponent, who's more than skilled enough to do so, he would neutralise over and over again. And on top of that, he was actually in good form, so there weren't as many opportunities to come in as I would like. And even when I created those opportunities, the confidence was not there to come in. And finally, onto the Groundstrokes. This is going to be a mixture of both positive and negative aspects of the string. And we'll start off with the positives. Again, there is a ton of spin that this string provides. Probably one of the highest spinning strings that I've tested for a while, at least probably this year. And you would think that's a terrific thing, and it is, but combined with the excessive shot speed, it means that I can't really utilize it. If I swing too aggressively, if I use quick racket head speed, it doesn't really matter if the technique is pretty good. There's always that risk that the ball is going long just because the shot speed is so high. And we've got to bear in mind as well that the racket is incredibly powerful, so that has contributed to the length control issues as well. In order to counter this, I feel like the string might be a lot more effective in a racket with a lower shot speed to start off with, and then we could really, in theory, be able to utilize the ton of spin that the string is providing. And this setup was fun to use anyway, and despite the result not going my way, watching the ball move through the air or move off of the surface more than usual, I mean, that was interesting to see. And my opponent having to adapt, that's a good thing. And so there's potential here with this string, but this setup is not the one, unfortunately. If we are going to continue with this type of string, I think it's got to be in a different racket. It doesn't matter what tension I string it up at. If I string it really tight at 70 pounds and get a ton of height, width control, trajectory control, I'm going to lose that length control because the power is just way too high. If I string it, mid-range or lower, then I get a little bit of snapback, but then I lose control over the height and width. And so I'm having to probably overspin the ball in order to stay aggressive. And if that ball lands short, then a skilled enough opponent is going to start making me defend and run side to side. And I'm not really prepared to do that. I don't think that's a winning play in the long term. Right, to sum up the test, the positives were the improved first serve percentage without a decrease in serve speed, so that was pretty cool to see. The kick serves, or the second serves rather, had noticeable spin, although we still had the same issues of double faults like we've had in the previous few setups. Another positive is the string provides a ton of spin. So in theory, if we could get the setup correct in terms of length and height control to the point where we can be aggressive without fearing overhitting, then utilizing that extra spin as a weapon would be a great idea. But again, that's something if we were going to revisit it, it would be sometime in the future. The negatives with this setup, like I said, the very poor length control, which makes it difficult to attack, especially from inside the court. And it gets even worse as we move up the court towards the net. It's very difficult to stick the volley and stay aggressive. and that means it does affect the confidence when trying to keep your opponent on the back foot. And we do, well, in this particular session, I missed quite a few opportunities to come in and finish the point just because that lack of confidence in the volleys from this setup made me second guess myself. So yeah, the length control off of the Groundstrokes and the overall control of the volleys and the touch and finesse shots up at the net make this pretty poor as an attacking setup. But yeah, if we are going to try and improve this setup, I think it might need to go into a different racket. But it's something to consider in the future. We'll see where we go with it. But yeah, that's the end of this analysis. I want to thank everyone for watching. I do appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, it might be worth checking out the other content on this channel and staying tuned for future videos that are coming out. So until then, I hopefully see you all there, and everyone, take care.